So you completed your first video and have studied those characters. You're about to start the second video for today. This video will introduce 5 more hiragana characters for you to learn to read and write. Our first character in this video is ha. To write ha correctly, it's really important to get the spatial relations correct. The first stroke is the vertical stroke on the left. Notice it's about 1/4 of the way into the box, and it ends in a hook as you move the brush from stroke 1 to stroke 2, which is the horizontal stroke. Stroke 2 stops. Notice it's about 1/3 of the way down in the box. Stroke 3 is the curly cue. Notice that the loop here is at the bottom of the stroke and not in the middle, like Su. Also notice that it starts about 3/4 of the way across the box. Stroke 3 also stops. Let's try this together. Stroke 1 hooks. We move the brush to stroke 2, it stops. And stroke 3 comes down and curly cues and stops. Ha! How can we remember this? Oh, to remember this, you might have to be a little mean and laugh at people. That man is wearing a silly red hat. Can you think of an image that's not so mean? Ho is 4 strokes, and it looks like ha with a stroke across the top of the right side. Again, it's very important to think about spacing as you write this character. Just like ha, the first stroke is the vertical stroke on the left side, and it ends in a hook. The second stroke is the top horizontal stroke on the right. The third is the second horizontal stroke on the right, and the fourth stroke is the same curly cue as in ha. All 3 of these strokes come to a complete stop. Notice that this font actually leaves a gap between stroke 2 and 4. It's not necessary to have that gap. Here's a font where strokes 2 and 4 are connected. Most people connect them. As I demonstrate writing ha, I'll connect strokes 2 and 4 as well. The one thing that cannot happen is for stroke 4 to begin above stroke 2. Let's go ahead and try this together. For stroke 1, we'll do the vertical line across the left side. Stroke 2 is the horizontal line across the top. Stroke 3 is the second horizontal line. And stroke 4 is the curly cue. It comes down around. Ho! If you sing or play music, this may be easy to remember by simply holding a note. Of course, why are you holding an 8th note? Wait, that's an 8th note of a half note. A 16th note? Perhaps music isn't the best way to remember this one. Can you think of something? Ma has 3 strokes. The first stroke goes across the character and stops. The second stroke is below the first stroke and slightly longer. Stroke 3 goes down and does that little curly cue before stopping. Notice that this stroke has appeared in all 3 of the characters we've learned so far. Let's try this together. So stroke 1 goes across and stops. Stroke 2 goes across and stops. Stroke 3 goes down, loops, and comes to a complete stop. Ma. Can you see a baby crying for mama? Yeah, that picture sucks. Surely you can think of a better way to remember it. Our next character is me. Me is only 2 strokes, but using the space correctly is kind of tricky. Stroke 1 starts about 1/3 of the way over and 1/3 of the way down from the top corner of the box. It slants down to the right and stops before it reaches halfway across the box. Stroke 2 begins above stroke 1 and a bit right of center. It slants down to the left and crosses stroke 1 before it curls back around, crossing stroke 1 and itself before turning back down and ending in a tail. You want to practice this one a lot. It's hard to get right. Let's try this together. Stroke 1, slants down to the right. Stroke 2 goes down, crosses stroke 1 in itself, and curls around to a tail. Meh. Trying to think of something to remember this was rough. The only thing I could think of was the Japanese word for I is me. So I, me. You may want to think of something that's based in the English language. And our final character for this video is wa. Wa has 3 strokes. Stroke 1 is the vertical stroke. So notice that this is a change. It's not the horizontal stroke, it's the vertical stroke. It starts about 1/3 of the way across the box. The second stroke looks like the number 7, and it crosses over stroke 1. Stroke 3 is very important. There are 2 other characters that differ only in the ending of the final stroke. So be sure that the final stroke of wa clearly curves back to the left before it tails off. Let's try this together. Stroke 1 is vertical, it stops. Stroke 2 looks like the number 7. And stroke 3 curves around back to the left before it tails. Wa. Adding a bit of coloring to this and you can kind of see a wasp. Get it? Wasp. Except the wings are completely wrong. Wasp wings are narrow. Please share with me a better idea. This is the end of the second video. Once again, take a little bit of time and study the 10 characters that you have learned so far. After you have spent some time studying, come back and watch the third and final video.